welcome to the Inspiring Victory Show, where we help you double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And we are really lucky because today we have a really brilliant marketer who's going to show you exactly how you can grow, scale, advance, make your brand everything you ever wanted it to be. Sue Kirchner is a longtime friend of mine and very, very talented woman and super smart. So you're going to be delighted with having a chance to get to know her a little bit today. She has a company called Brand Strong Marketing, where they take medium-sized companies and make them much larger companies, and has a really interesting angle on how you can increase your brand awareness, and then use that brand to be able to compete with the big guys, which is a pretty miraculous thing as well. She's also got a brand new show coming out we're all really, really excited about, called Turbo Branding, on the same topic. So you can find her all over YouTube and all over the world, and go to her website if you want to learn more. But we get her all to ourselves today. So welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you. It's always a fun conversation.
Definitely, definitely. Welcome to the Inspire Victory Show.
Thank
Glad to
you.
have you here. All right. Well, I have a lot of questions for you. One question is something that I get a lot, which is, what is branding exactly? Why do we need it? How is it going to help me? And, you and I talk about this a lot, but you have a really wonderful way of expressing it. So how about the people that may have heard of branding, they know they should be thinking branding, but they don't understand exactly what does it mean to a small to medium-sized business or even a larger business, and how can it impact them in a positive way if they put more focus on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And hopefully I will remember all the pieces in there and get that up for you.
That was
But
the world's longest. That was like 12 questions in one. Good luck.
yeah, no, it's good. We'll work through it. So,
You got it. You got it.
so let's start with, well, what is a brand? So a brand is a culmination of what you say and what you do. It's the culmination of messages and the experience that you deliver every time someone interacts with your organization. So whether that's customers, whether that's employees, whether that's strategic partners, investors, when they interact with your company, they're going to walk away with a perception, and it resides in their mind. So you have to be very cognizant of the fact that as a business, you don't own that brand. The best you can do is you can manage it. You can manage the perception that people have of you, and that's where the messaging and the experience come in. So it's absolutely vital and important because we all psychologically want to work with people we know and like and trust. And the way to do that is obviously to build a relationship. And to build a relationship, you have to have those consistent messages and those consistent experiences so that people can say, I get what that company's about. I get what they're going to deliver to me if I work with them. And so companies really need to spend the time to focus in on, well, what do we want them to walk away with? What is that perception that we want people to have? When we're not in the room, how does someone describe us to someone else? And that's incredibly important. And, in order to get people to describe your organization the way you want them to, again, you've got to be delivering the messaging and the experience that reinforce that. So, and as you talked about, branding, what's been kind of my passion in the last number of years is the fact that when you talk about branding and you read any articles about branding, everybody mentions the big companies, right? The Coca-Colas, the Mercedes-Benz, the Apples, the Nikes, and things like that, which is great because we all know those organizations. And so we can relate to and understand the examples of why branding is important. However, having worked with small and mid-sized businesses for over 20 years, what I came to realize was that identifying and leveraging your brand is actually much more important and essential for companies that are trying to scale, because it offers you a variety of benefits. It offers you focus. It allows you to gather around the point where you want to take your organization and be able to get all of your employees around you and marching in the same direction. It offers you clarity to build that know, like, and trust factor so that people want to do business with you. So the clarity comes from understanding who you are, who your ideal target market is, how you deliver incredibly unique value to that organization, how you're different from the competition, and where you want to go, where you're taking the organization from a growth standpoint. So that clarity is essential to scaling. And the last part is just the consistency piece of it. So when you get into really delivering the same consistent experience every time someone interacts with you and the same consistent message every time they see your marketing or some kind of a communication from you, that is what helps to build that know, like, trust relationship factor that people want to work with you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, why I passionately believe that small and mid-sized businesses need to invest in understanding their brand and leveraging it is because it helps you accelerate and grow faster. Because at the end of the day, if you start to scale your company, so let's say you're at $1 million in revenue growth and you've been in business for maybe 5 years, maybe it's taken you 10 years, but you're at that point where you say, you know what, I think we've got it. I think we have the right product or the right solution. We know where we're going. We're going to grow. We're going to invest and make this company a larger entity. Well, when that happens, you're going to need three things. You're going to need more customers, you're going to need more employees, and you're going to need capital in order to invest and be able to grow and put money into these initiatives of where you want to go. Well, if you can't tell your story of who you are, where you're going, why someone should work with you, why someone should work for you, or why someone should invest in you, you're never going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to scale fast. You may not even be able to scale at all. So that's been kind of my mission, my passion, is helping these emerging companies really identify their brand and then leverage it in a variety of different ways so that they can get to that growth level that they're looking for faster and more successfully.
I love that.
I think I got all the questions there.
You did. No, you did it perfectly. That was exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Most people don't mention the experience part. And I thought that was interesting because most people are talking about the messaging and what's on your website, what's on your social media, and, what do you name your podcast, or like whatever those things are. What do you do at your trade show booth? But they don't necessarily mention that, what is the experience and what do you want people saying about you and your company when you're not, or when they're not right in front of you. And I think that's, those are super important things. And the consistency is an interesting point too, because we all know companies, even if you're going to a hairdresser or something,
Mm-hmm.
If you go once and it's a great experience and you have a wonderful time, and the next time you wait 4 hours, it's not a consistent experience that you're going to necessarily refer people
Right.
to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. The experience part is incredibly important for a couple different reasons. One is, like you said, is you can say whatever you want about your company, but if people don't experience what you've said, you've immediately created this disconnect. And like you've talked about, exactly building on your hairdresser example is, a restaurant. Let's say you go into a restaurant one time, you're like, oh my gosh, the meal was fabulous. And then you go back because the meal was fabulous. And this time you're like, it wasn't that great. What happened? Okay, we'll give it one more shot. And then you go a third time and you're like, all right, forget it. They, what we loved the first time was obviously a fluke. They can't maintain that. And then suddenly you no longer want to do business or, spend your money with this particular restaurant. And the same thing happens with businesses, whether it's
or for your friends.
Oh, right, exactly. You're certainly not going to refer it because you don't trust it.
You're not going to, you're not going to put your name on the line and send somebody to a restaurant that they're not going to have a good time at. Yeah.
Exactly. So the experience part of it is important for, like I said, a couple of different reasons. One is to, back up the messaging and create this stronger impression in someone's head about what your organization stands for and what you can deliver. The second is every single touch point, every time you touch your audience, whether it's a customer or employee, you have a chance to make or break your brand, right? So I've had some examples of clients in the past where, they went on and on about, we are so dedicated to quality and our product is absolutely fantastic. And that's what we need to be marketing. And that's what we need to be branding. But when you start to dig in and understand why they're still losing customers, even with having that great quality, is what we found out was if you look at the entire customer experience and look at every single touch point, where it was breaking was when it came to invoicing and billing. It was always wrong. And customers were like, every time I work with you, I spend hours on the phone trying to figure out why this invoice is wrong or why you're overcharging me or undercharging me or things like that. And they never stopped to realize that that was where their brand was breaking. That was where the customers were fleeing and saying, you know what, they're too much of a hassle to work with. We're not going to work with this company anymore. I don't care how great the product is. It's not worth the hassle. So you have to kind of look at it that way. But the other thing is the brand really helps you retain customers, and the experience is what helps you retain customers. And really, for companies to scale and to grow, 60 to 65% of your revenue needs to come from repeat business. You can't constantly be trying to attract new customers. It's just not cost effective as a business. So you need to find a customer and then you need to hang on to them. And the way you're going to hang on to them is by focusing on that experience. Like we talked about it, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be great, and it needs to back up what you promised them in the messaging.
So yeah, everything all just goes seamlessly together. I remember, early on, I was watching a seminar program and we were all sitting taking fast and furious notes. And there's the marketing guy actually for The Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, John Gray guy. And actually I ended up hiring him. We had the same marketing guy for the longest time. It was really interesting. Anyway, he said there's three things that you can be in business. You can be the best quality. You can be the best service. And he said, and you can be the best price. He said, but no company on earth in the history of the world can be all three.
All three, exactly.
You're going to have to pick one as your primary. And then if you want to scale, this is my interpretation of this, but if you want to scale, you'd better master two and give up on the third. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to have the best quality. Absolutely. I don't know if I could do the service part of it because it was, me and me.
Right, right.
In the first couple of years anyway. Now we've cast 1,000, says, but it was interesting. And then as we have scaled, we put more and more and more time and energy into infrastructure and people and making sure that the customer experience is as flawless as it can be, or is when things happen that you handle them honorably and respectfully.
Yeah.
But I realized early on, the people that try to also be cheaper than everybody else, they die a quick and miserable death because they can't put that money that is necessary into the infrastructure of making sure that the experience is really, really great. But
Right.
nobody gets to be all three. And that's kind of what you're saying. It's like if you've got, our product's the best in the world, but to get the, billing's always wrong, you're going to have a situation where you lose people pretty quickly. Like you said, I don't care if it's the best product or service in the world, if it's a pain in the butt every time I get a bill, that's gonna
Right.
affect people. Oh, I
No.
love that story. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And one of the hardest things being a brand strategist when working with companies is like you were talking about is with strategy, you have to focus. You have to pick a lane, right? So
Yeah.
you can't be everything to everyone because you will end up being nothing to everyone,
Anybody.
right?
Well, and nobody could figure out what you do for a living either. It's like we sell tires, but we also are a consulting firm, but we also have bought a string of dry cleaners. You're like, what are these people? Yeah,
Exactly.
you have to
And
be
as you're
very careful about
scaling
that.
and as a small and mid-sized business, you only have so many resources, time, energy, and money to move forward and to market into brand and to invest in your company. So you have to pick where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. And it is the hardest thing ever to get someone to say, okay, this is the lane we play in. This is what we're
Yes.
great at. It is incredibly hard to get people to pick target markets because you don't ever want
Yes.
to say
I got
no
the
to
message.
someone. But on the flip
Yeah.
side, you don't have enough money to market to everyone,
To 12 different markets.
to
Yeah, no,
12
that's not
different
really,
markets. So
yeah,
pick the
100,000 at least.
ideal customer, the one who's going to be the easiest to work with, absolutely love what you have to offer, and they're most profitable and able to
Yeah,
refer you. So who is that audience? That's who you need to be focusing
that's who you
on and
go after.
marketing to and build that into your brand.
I think it's a wonderful point. And, what I've found also is it doesn't keep you from getting some small piece of business. It actually gets you a lot more because people are much more likely to say this person is an expert in this industry or in this type of service. And, they want a specialist. They're
Right.
looking for somebody that's a specialist versus having somebody that's all things to all people. I really like what you said about it. It kind of reminds me, I think we've also more and more over the years, we are looking for specialists too. I remember My mom, she was a ballet dancer, and so she had some trouble with her feet.
Yeah.
And she went to a podiatrist, and the guy said, well, 20 years ago, I would have said to you, sure, I got you. We'll do a quick surgery. You're done. And he goes, but now, he said, we specialize. And she goes, okay. And he said, I'm going to send you to somebody that specializes in dancer feet. And I went, really? Okay. So then she goes to this other woman and she says, no, no, I only do the left foot. You need the right foot.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, we have become a culture that expects specialization, and that specialization is really prized. And that's what you're talking
Right.
about is niching into some space that you can own and that other people can get excited about with you. And it is interesting how people will spin you off into other places, even if you are specializing. Like I specialized for 28 years, whatever it's been, in small to medium sized businesses, and I've spoken to 3,000 groups of them. But somewhere along the line, I spoke for, I think it was USANA or Arbonne, and one of the direct selling companies, and which I did a zillion of those. And somebody's spouse was at IBM and said,
Hmm.
can you come double your business in 1 year less at IBM? And I said, do you really want to double the entire business of IBM? And they were like, you're so funny.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll take it. If you do a division, we'll be happy. So I
Right.
ended up speaking at IBM, which is a really big deal, especially since they were projecting it out to all these different countries. It was 75,000 people at a time. And it really did change the trajectory of my career quite a bit. But even though I was over there in this giant corporation, and it did lead to Toyota and Ford and Redken and a bunch of others,
Uh-huh.
the fact that I said I mainly speak, you don't have to say I only speak to or I only work with, but I specialize I'm an
Correct.
expert in small to medium sized businesses and helping them double in 1 year or less. It didn't keep me from any opportunities. It just allowed the people where I love to work with the most
Hmm.
and where I have the best connection and emotional connection to be able to be comfortable with me. And I think, I remember the great Mark S.A. Smith used to say it's as important to figure out who you want to attract as it is to figure out who you want to repel.
Exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
that's what you're talking about. It's
That is
not just,
exactly what I'm talking
it's
about
not, I
because
don't,
it's
I don't want everybody. I want the people who would not be a good emotional fit maybe, or physically don't have the budget or whatever. I want them to be repelled, which sounds weird because you think you would want everybody, but what you're saying is so smart. You don't. The more you narrow down, as long as you don't get down to, I only want, left-handed, painters that live in Montana. I mean, if you're down to
right.
3 people, you're in trouble. But if you can niche it down to, again, like you're saying, a demographic that you love and that you have experience in or that you're a good fit for, and a psychographic. I think most people, they forget to say, what are your values? Is there an industry or a part of the industry or a kind of a person where the psychology could really match your values to their values? And
Exactly.
I think that's a big part. I think most people don't think of branding, all of what branding means. I think they just think it means have a website, have some social media, have a name for your company, have a tagline, have some nice messaging, and we're done. But you're talking about the experience and the consistency and
Oh
the
yeah.
whole channel of, is your brand consistently working across every single area? I love
Exactly.
that.
And
Tell me
it's
more.
absolutely important because it's the foundation. I like to say that I'm someone you should hire before you spend money on your marketing because you need to understand the key components. Like you said, it's a foundation of, okay, what are we good at? Let's figure that out. Then you
Mhm,
look at who is our ideal target audience, right? Because like you were talking about, we
mhm.
all have had customers that drained all of our time. At the end of the day, they were
Yeah.
not that profitable. They fought us on everything. And I've seen clients where these kinds of situations, they demoralize the employees and the employees start to quit. And they're just like, I don't want to
Yeah.
work with these kinds of people. And it's just too chaotic and it's negative. And,
Yeah.
so you need to really understand, like you said, who your target audience is. And you need to
Mhm,
dig deep. And that's what I help my clients do is to really say, like you were talking about with the psychographics, what motivates these people? Why do they want to work with you? What challenges are going on? What's keeping your customers up at night? If you can understand the whole psyche that surrounds your ideal customer, then you can be much more effective in marketing to them, right? Because now
Right.
you know how to talk to them, you know what messages are going to resonate. And in today's hyper communication world where you're just bombarded with messages everywhere. It's like, how do you stand out? Well, you don't necessarily stand out with cat videos anymore, or bright colors, or loud sounds, or things like that. What stands out
I
in
like
this
a kitty cat
chaotic
video,
marketing environment is relevance. It's where someone
Yes.
says, wait, it
Yeah.
sounds like you're talking to me. It sounds like you understand my problem. And you can
Right.
only do that if you've done the homework and done the research to figure out who your ideal target audience is so that you can talk to them. And then you look at, all right, well, we understand what they need. Now, how do we deliver? How do we give them a solution that's going to be ideal for them and keeps them coming back and loving us and loyalty and all this kind of
Love
stuff?
that.
And that's
Yeah.
where you look at the experience and you say, okay, is our product or solution right? Do we need to tweak anything to make it more attractive to this particular person? Let's look at the whole customer journey. Are we delivering everywhere to
Right.
make sure that that promise is being cemented and things like that? So when you have that foundation done, all of that upfront homework, and you have your
Mhm.
brand strategy, now you can go spend money on marketing and whatever tactics that you need to reach this particular person. And like you talked about, it doesn't mean you say no if someone calls you, says, I'd like
I
to do
did not
business
turn
with you.
IBM down. No.
Right. But
Right. Yeah. Right.
as you
Yeah.
are growing and scaling, again, you only have so much time, energy, and money. You can't be
Yeah.
advertising to everyone or trying to communicate with everyone.
Right.
So you need to spend your money where you're going to get the biggest return on investment. And that is with this audience you've identified as being perfect for what you can deliver to them.
And I think that that's a great way of looking at it. It's who do you find are the ones that are more draining that maybe somebody other company would have loved working with and they
Oh,
wouldn't have found
exactly.
them draining. Maybe it's for me, I don't speak to groups that are very, very, very left brain engineers and because I need them, I really want them to laugh the whole time. And they're more serious folks and don't they're lovely individuals
Mhm.
as a group. I think that they do better with people that are more left brain and do speak their lingo and their language and their lingo. So I think it's that who are we trying to attract and who do we feel we should be directing elsewhere. And
Right.
I think it's like that thing that you said about, all of a sudden you're losing employees or you're losing other customers because you're taking care of the one problem child. And I think you have to be as careful in choosing clients, especially if you don't take a bunch of them every year, that you're choosing
Correct.
clients that are going to be great, that you're going to want them for a long time,
Right.
and that they're going to refer you great people because if they're really difficult, all their friends are really difficult too. So if they
Yes.
like working with you and then they send you referrals, you don't like any of them. And if they, but more than likely, like you said, it's not that profitable. It takes all your time and it just isn't going quite right because it wasn't a great fit to begin with. But
Right.
I think people miss that, I think deals are like buses. There's another,
There's another one
you
coming.
can tell another one coming every 5 minutes. You can tell I live in downtown
Right.
Chicago these days. But yeah, there's another one every few minutes. So you don't have to take every deal because you have to be thinking, like you said, thinking further ahead to 65% of these need to be long-term relationships. And
Right.
and again, they're your primary source of referrals. So is this somebody where they're going to enjoy you and your company, and your company and where your team is going to enjoy them.
Actually.
And that's coming more from a consulting model, but I think even if you have a coffee shop, no matter what it is, you want
Right.
like-minded people coming in and being a joy to be around, and that makes life a lot better anyway. Do you
Exactly.
think?
And
Yep.
speaking of that, it's kind of one of the things I absolutely love about what I do is after I've done all the brand research, like you were talking about, we all have those clients that drag us down and there's problems day to day. And, there's a lot of days where you wake up going, why am I doing this? And a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, as they scale, they're like, what am I doing? But what I find most satisfying about the work that I do is when I go in and I meet with the executive team and the CEO or the founder, and we talk about, okay, tell me why you started this company. Tell me all about what you do on your best day. What can you deliver to your customers and things like that. Then I go out and I do research and talk to the customers and validate that because that's where the perception matters. And even talk to their employees, may talk to some strategic partners, but I go outside and say, okay, what is the brand perception out in the marketplace about your
Yeah.
organization? 9 times out of 10, it's not what the internal CEO and executive team told me, it's something else. So then we have to make the decision of, are we happy with the external perception? If so,
Yeah.
let's double down on that and make it
Yeah.
stronger. Or if we're not, if we're totally missing the mark, then what do we need to fix? Do we need to fix the messaging? Do we need to fix the experience? But the most gratifying part of this is when I go in and present to the executive team and the founder and the CEO and say, okay, I've done all the research. Here's what they said, but here is your brand. Here is what you are amazing at and can take to market. And what I love is it makes them fall in love with their business again.
Oh, lovely.
So they sit there and they're
Lovely.
like, oh my gosh, all we deal with is problems. All we deal with is negative and all this kind of stuff. And now to sit here and say, yes, that is why I started the business. Or yes, that is why we get up every day and move forward and keep doing this because we can make a difference and people do love what we do.
Yeah. I think
So
that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it is tough to be an owner or a CEO or, running a business. It is all about lots of lots and lots of problem solving. But I think if you can shine a light on where a real core of genius is for an individual or a company or
yeah,
a larger company, in a way that they can see and the way that they can take action on. I can see where that would be highly, highly valuable and
yes.
impactful and energizing, like you said, because I think there are times where, yeah, where they're like, oh, this is getting to be tough. And you're showing them a path to be able to harness the genius of that company and of the staff that they have and the salespeople or whatever, depending on how large they are, to be able to put all those pieces together and say, let's charge forward on the areas
Exactly.
of real genius that your company does possess. And yeah, I think that for most people, I think there is a disconnect between what they think people are loving and buying versus what they're really loving and buying. And
Correct.
is it ever a situation where it makes it easier to run the business because they stop doing things that no one cares about? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
does that ever happen? It was just popped into my head. Well, tell me about what that's like, because I can picture it, but I don't have an example. So tell me how
Well,
does that
I
work?
mean, it's happened with my clients too, where we talked about, okay, well, why are you offering this? Because no one cares about, you spent so much time and energy into your money back
Those-
guarantee or into providing this additional service and nobody wants it. It's not, it's not moving
I've
the
done that.
needle kind of a
I've done
thing.
that. Services are like no one likes that
No
one.
one likes that. But I'm going to go
Yeah.
back and talk about
But
just
you
my
keep
experience.
at it because you put money into it, right? So
Right.
it's that sunk cost. It's like,
It's
put money. We're going to keep it. Meanwhile, the thing you put no money into that's totally effortless that you're making gobs of money. That doesn't matter. Let's keep working on this ridiculous thing that nobody wants. Oh
Exactly.
yeah,
And
and
nobody
we've all
wants it
done
because
that.
you didn't
Yeah.
bother to ask anybody up front whether anybody wanted it. And that's the big mistake right there. But I'm just
Right.
going to use
True.
myself as an
True.
example. When I started to really work through customer journey, customer experience, and looking at the touch points, I did it on myself because you've got to sit
Good.
down and look at your
Good.
own. And I
Walk your
realized,
own
and
talk.
after
There you go.
yeah, and after
Yep.
talking to some of my customers, I'm like, okay, how can I make my experience or my customer journey more impactful for my clients? And one of the things I found was I was pouring my heart and soul into these research reports because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. I want to tell people exactly what their customers, were saying. And it would take me hours to put these research reports together. And I'm writing them in narrative form so they could go back and refer to them and all this kind of stuff. And what I found out at the end is like, yeah, we don't read that. They're like, it's nice that you gave it to me, but we don't read that. We don't have time for that. Give me the
I don't
summary,
care.
make it
So
succinct,
boil
show
it
the
down.
key
I don't have time
findings,
for that.
all this
That's
kind of
so
stuff.
funny.
If they're like, if we want more detail, we'll ask you and then
We'll call
provide
you up. Yeah,
a
yeah.
report
We'll do
kind
a
of a
Zoom
thing.
call. We'll
So that was
discuss.
one
Yeah.
thing that I'm like, oh my gosh, that saved me like 12 hours on a client engagement by not having to do this. So, and it wasn't
I
like
love
they
that.
felt like, oh, well,
I
then you
love
should charge me less by not doing it. No, it was
They
just,
just
I don't
didn't
find
care.
value in it. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
And
wow, I
then,
can charge the same and yet
well,
put 12
Like
hours of work
12
out of
hours
it.
less. And, maybe just have like office hours once a week or once in a while or whatever. If what they really wanted was just to be able to have access to you, now you've got 12 hours extra. First of all, most of it you could just repurpose into other things in general. But now you got 12 more hours in case they want to have a quick call with you or ask you a question, which if that's what they really value, then there you go. Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
that's
And
so
one
funny.
of the other things I learned about touch points and all
Wonderful
that too
story.
was like I'll start an
I
engagement
love that.
and I'll meet with the CEO and the executive team. We'll get all excited and we'll be talking and here's what we're going to do. But then I go off and do the research. Well, the research might take 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how many people we're talking to and what we're doing and
Sure,
things like
of
that.
course.
So I'm
Yeah.
working, full speed and getting all this stuff done. But really, I sat back and they told me, they're like, yeah, but during those 6 to 8 weeks, we don't hear from you. It's like we don't have a touch point that says you're still working or you're still doing anything, or we lose the momentum that I created plummets during this time when I'm doing all the research and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was such a valuable insight to me, was because I'm spending all my time trying to give them a great, product at the end and doing
Outcome,
all this
right.
research. And they're like, where'd she go? What's she doing? I thought we
Yeah.
were working on branding. Why are we not working on branding anymore?
Yeah,
Kind of a
it's been
thing.
6 weeks. Yeah. So from a quality standpoint, fantastic.
Yeah.
From a customer experience standpoint, not so fantastic. And
Not so fantastic. So I had to go back and
had to
say,
adjust.
okay, all right,
Those are
now I
great
need to build
examples.
touch points in during this period where I'm doing research. I either need to share one little iota of information I found to get everybody excited, or I
Uh,
maybe even just share an article about branding, but something to keep them, informed on the progress of what I'm doing, and keep the energy up high during
yeah.
that period where I'm not really interacting with them. I'm interacting outside of the organization.
Well, I also found those first few weeks, you have to sort of reinforce that their investment was a good investment. And sometimes
Right.
that means just extra time, or that means finding, we always talk about quick wins at our company. Find something, it can be small. It's like, oh, wow, we have a brand new logo that we love, or whatever
Right.
my creative team, if they're in on the process. But find some quick win in the first 2 weeks where they go, oh, wow, okay, this
Yeah.
was a good investment. And I can see where if you're off slaving away and not, how are you going to create those quick wins? That's really interesting, and how
Yeah.
wonderful that you ask those types of questions. That's
But see, that was the
fantastic.
thing, is if I hadn't asked, I wouldn't have done that. And I would have kept doing
Yeah,
what I was doing
right.
and missing
That's
opportunities
brilliant.
to create more delight or wow factor in the way that I service my clients.
With you
And
now,
so
yeah.
that's the same thing with companies I talk to. I'm like, you spend so much time on the
On
product and the
reports.
service and the delivery that you don't take a
Yeah.
step back and say, well, what was the experience like? Or once they
Mhm.
are in using the product or in the middle of the service delivery, how are they feeling? What kind of, emotion are you creating? And the only way you can find out is to ask. And that's
Yeah.
where a lot of companies don't take the time, because you're just so focused on the end result that you're not focused on the experience. So,
Right. Which most people don't even think of as being connected to brand.
right.
Interesting. That is really, really, really interesting. I've started over the years asking, is there, I'll do these touch points with clients if they're working with like the whole team. They've got, Leslie's sourcing them overseas VAs, and somebody's in as their fractional COO, usually Kim Adele Randall, that
Yeah.
and Eunice, their team's doing their social media, whatever, so all this stuff. So I have these check-in points where I will say, how is it going? How do you like, and things and stuff like that. And I've learned to say, is there anything that we could do? At first, as I say, what's been most helpful? What are you most excited about? What are you feeling good about? And then I'll say, is there anything we could do to make this an even more exceptional experience for you?
Right.
And I get great answers. And most of the stuff that they'll say, well, there's one thing that would be really nice. One of our favorite clients said, I would love an agenda, maybe the week before our big meetings, so
Yeah.
I know what to be prepared with. And I was like, I mean, it's like, why didn't I think of that? It's like the most obvious. I
Right.
can't believe I didn't think agenda.
Yeah.
But they're not usually, and they're not usually asking for something that's going to take 400 hours. From most of the time they just say, no, you guys are awesome, I love you, people. But every
Right.
so often you get this little nugget and you think, well, we should probably do that. That was really, why didn't we think of this? But and again, it's not usually there's something where like we'd like an extra 5 million widgets from you, or, we need 50 more hours of your time. It's usually something that's free, that's easy, that's small, that makes them more comfortable. And sometimes there are things that you think, wow, we probably should be doing that for everybody, every agenda. So,
Yeah.
stuff like, yeah,
I know,
we're
you're like
creating.
genius. But yeah, you're right.
Why did
It's
I do?
these little nuggets of information that make all the
Right.
difference. And it's listening to your customers. Or
Yeah.
maybe internally, it's listening to your employees to find out how you could do something different to make them have a greater experience. And,
Right.
you
Well,
know,
see, that's a great point too. Yeah. What
yeah,
can,
because the
how do we,
brand
how do
isn't,
we become the leader that these people deserve too? I mean, I think
yeah,
once in a while
how do you become the
you
leader
have to
they
be humble
deserve?
about it.
And then
Yeah.
the other key component of brand, like we talked about, every touch point you have with a customer is a chance to make or break your brand. Well, they're interacting with your employees at
That's
those
right.
touch points.
Yep.
So, do your employees know what the brand is? Do they know the
Mm,
experience you're trying to deliver? And this is where a lot of times the brand needs the most help within an organization is that
right.
everyone in the company needs to know that they're working towards a vision and they're working and delivering a promise that you made with the brand. And so what's my role in it? Right. So this is where the
Mm,
CEO or the business owner needs to be the steward of the brand and walk the talk and say, hey, you are all essential in us being able to grow. And it's because you deliver on this brand. Here's what the brand is. Here's
mm,
how your particular function adds to that or contributes to it or makes it better. So now everybody's engaged, right? And it's like, ooh. And
mm-hmm,
then you also have all these brand ambassadors within your organization who now
mm-hmm,
understand, okay, this is what our company is all about. And that helps us deliver a better experience to customers, but it also helps you with recruiting because then your employees may say, you know what, somebody asked me if we were hiring, and I immediately could tell whether this person was A, going to be the right fit. And
mm-hmm,
B, I knew how to tell the employer brand story of why this was such a great place to work. And that's important too, is because, like we were talking about, when you're scaling, you're going to need people. You're going to need more people. So,
you need
how
the
do you
best people you can
attract
get.
talent?
Yeah.
You have to tell the story about why this is such a great place to work. And part of that story is what you deliver externally to your customers. So it's like, here's what we
Mm-hmm,
do. Here's what we are passionate about delivering. And you're
mm-hmm,
going to be a part of that team. And isn't that exciting? And you need to
mm-hmm.
have that down.
Absolutely. And I think that most people don't even think of that as being part of brand, but how important is that? And I mean, your employees notice if you say our values are these 5 things and you're not doing any of them, or you're a little low on one of them, they're not going to want to tell their friends to come to work with you if you're not doing the best possible job at delivering on for the customers. And again, if they're hearing people yelling at them half the day, that they're not going to want to stay, let alone tell other people. So you have the internal marketing and the external marketing. Really interesting that that all goes back to this branding piece, but most people just don't tie those things together. And I love that you have and having a strong brand strong marketing. Ta-da.
Ta-da.
And yeah, and turbo branding. I do love the new podcast. I'm looking forward to being on it. So yeah, so I can see that would make a huge difference. All those different components being looked at the same time.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I think so what I'm hearing is that yes, there's a lot of time to be saved, there's a lot of stress to be saved, there's a lot more opportunity for growth and scaling when you know what it is that you're delivering that people really value the most and what are the things that they don't value the most. Because I think most people think, oh, it's just going to be more work. They're just going to tell us more things. But you found things that saved you 12 hours on every single project that you're doing.
Right.
Speaking of Kim Adele Randall, she once said that there's this great study that says that clients really don't care if you over deliver on everything. They
Mm-hmm.
really only care that you over deliver on the things that actually matter to them. And if
Correct.
you try to over deliver on like how you write an email to say Tuesday versus Friday, they're going to be like, why are you wasting so much time, doing the most spectacularly personalized, customized, whatever that I now
Mm-hmm.
have to respond to, on something that doesn't really matter. So I think the fact that you're looking at what are the things that are the big wins versus what maybe we would want if we were the customer maybe we would like really beautiful emails, just Tuesday versus Friday. And
Correct.
granted, I do have a staff that's amazing and they write emails that are absolutely beautiful. And that is part of interacting with the customer. But I think most of us do not have a good handle on what are the parts of the customer experience, as you were saying, that are really valuable to 95% of the customers, and what are the things that maybe could be a little less spectacular.
Correct.
Because no, like you said, you're doing 12 hours on a report that is absolutely beautiful and that no one is reading, and that's
Just
just
reading
not
it.
good. And no one cares. Yeah,
Right.
I thought that's a fantastic example.
Right.
So if you were giving advice to, somebody who's a CEO that up and coming, and what's the one thing that you would say, all right, this is the thing. This is the advice I would give you. What's the one nugget that would come to mind?
Well, I do, and I've even spoken about this, is the biggest mistake you can make is ignoring or not leveraging your brand. You absolutely have to take the time to identify it and then build on it, because otherwise you're just going to waste time. You're just going to, you won't grow as fast as you possibly could. And there's so many businesses that have great missions, great products, great services. Get it out there faster, get it out there to more people and things like that. So leveraging the brand, it helps you attract and retain customers. It helps you attract and retain employees. It helps you enter new markets. It helps improve the ROI if you go down a merger and acquisition path and make that a much more profitable growth opportunity. And it helps you get capital investment because you know where you're going, you know what you're good at, you know who your ideal customers are, and by having that story down pat, you can just scale faster, easier, and more successfully.
That was a spectacular answer. Thank you so much. Really, really good advice. As always, I love spending time with you. I'm sure it'll be really, really helpful to anybody who has been smart enough to listen to you and spend more time with you.
Yeah, I
And if
hope
they
so.
want to get a hold of you, probably the best way is to go to your website, which is brandstrongmarketing.com, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And do check out her brand new show, which is Turbo Branding. We're all really excited about. She's going to have some wonderful guests on and lots more great content. Meanwhile, thank you so much for joining us here on the Inspiring Victory Show, where we help you inspire others and double your business in 1 year or less. Thanks for
Thank you
being here,
so much
Greta.
for having me.
Thanks for being here. Thanks. You're always a delight. Really, really great content. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Please like, subscribe, share, write a comment. It makes a huge difference with how many people we can reach here at the Inspiring Victory Show, and it makes a big difference to me personally. I want to make sure that we're providing content to as many people as we possibly can so they can grow and succeed. So double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this extraordinary community.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Marites Bott of Bott and Associates.
I'm so honored to get to be with our wonderful sponsor for the Inspiring Victory Show. And I want to make sure you know a little bit more about her and about what they do, because I think it'd be really helpful for all of us as business people and just in our personal lives. Marites does a lot of speaking, as many of you probably know, but I love one of the speeches that she's famous for, which is A Generous Legacy, the Power of Future-Proofing Your Business and your personal life. And that's really what you are all about. So I want to talk a little bit about that with you. And can you give us an example of somebody who's come to you and how you were able to help them that might be able to help all of us as we navigate our financial planning as well as our estate planning for business and for personal?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. We do a lot of estate planning, obviously, as well as the financial planning for our clients. And a story that I think is a great way to showcase what we do is this wonderful couple that we met back in, I want to say 2015. They came in for a consultation. So they are certainly a wonderful couple, blended family. So second marriage for both of them. He has children and she does not. Basically, they were saying to me, Meritus, I really want my estate plan to be secure. I want it to be ironclad so it goes to the right people. Particularly the wife was concerned that this money goes to her charities, which she was very, very active in and volunteers quite a bit. She puts her hard-earned money with them. And she also wants to make sure her husband is taken care of as well. So she wanted to do both objectives at the same time. We were like, of course we can help you with that. We want to make sure that we write everything down and just like you said, make it ironclad so that there's no contest. There's nobody trying to get to the money inappropriately. Right. So we created a wonderful estate plan for them. So that was 2015. Now, sadly, she unexpectedly passed a few years later. And her surviving spouse came to us and he really needed help. He was so, of course, distraught and super, super sad. But he was also very concerned about the financial pieces. He wasn't that familiar with financial instruments. There was 13, 14, 15 accounts that she had. And of course, he was like, I'm confused. What do I do with all of this? So we said, okay, we're going to take care of you. We got this. And we were able to really take a hold of all those instruments and all those accounts. And on our financial side of our business, we were able to consolidate them, invest it in very prudent investments and make sure it's easy for him to manage. So we were able to do that within 3 to 6 months. His late wife's wishes of him being able to live on that money and then eventually at his death give it to her charities is exactly what's going to happen. So wonderful to be able to plan it properly, give her peace of mind. A few years later, we're honoring 100% of her wishes. This money is not going to go to anybody inappropriately. And her beneficiaries, her charities, are going to be so happy to be able to get this money upon his death because he is still able to live on that income. So I love those stories because to me, we work so hard. We sacrifice daily, right? We work so hard and we want to be able to take our money and be able to give it to people that we love and charities that we believe in.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I always enjoy spending time with you. And yeah, you're one of the people I always find so much value in talking to. You're just walking integrity and you're a good soul. And you help people. You help people. So thank you for being on the show again and for sharing with us and for always doing such a great job for everybody. And now that you're able to do even more and be more of a one-stop shop to help people with all these different issues, I think your company and you are even more valuable. Thank you so much. Always lovely to see you. Meritus Bott and Associates. If it's something that you need, be sure and contact Meritus right away. Thank you.